Also this morning, Russian and Turkish foreign ministers will meet to discuss the situation in Syria, a day on from the murder of Moscow's ambassador to Turkey.
Andrey Karlov was killed by an off-duty policeman who shouted, "Don't forget Aleppo," after shooting the diplomat in Ankara. A warning that this report from our senior correspondent David Bowden includes the gunshots and the aftermath of the attack.
With Russia's ambassador dead at his feet, Mevlut Altintas rants at the dignitaries and media gathered for an art exhibition.
Beni buradan ancak ölüm alır. Bu zulümde payı olan kim varsa hepsi tek tek hesabını verecek.
The 22-year-old Turkish policeman making it clear he'd murdered Andrey Karlov because of Russia's backing for the Syrian regime and the bombardment of Aleppo. The assassin too was dead soon after his attack, cut down by Turkish special forces. Ambassador Karlov had been giving a speech at the gallery as his killer gunned him down, and Russia now wants to know how it could have been allowed to happen.
The crime that was committed is without doubt a provocation aimed at disrupting the normalization of Russian-Turkish relations and disrupting the peace process in Syria that is being actively advanced by Russia, Turkey and Iran.
Andrey Karlov was a career diplomat. He'd served as Moscow's man in North Korea in the 1980s, and he'd been Russia's top diplomat in Ankara for more than 3 years. He was ambassador when Turkey shot down a Russian jet near the Syrian border, plunging relations between the countries to a new low. Since then, they'd recovered sufficiently for Ankara and Moscow to liaise on the evacuation of civilians from eastern Aleppo. Was the gunman trying to break that cooperation with this attack? If so, following a phone call between Turkish President Erdogan and Vladimir Putin, he vowed that the opposite would happen.
I describe this attack on Russia's embassy as an attack to Turkey, Turkey's state and nation. After the incident, during the talk with Mr. Putin, we agreed this is a provocation and there isn't any dispute.
Nevertheless, Turkey and Russia are on opposing sides in the Syrian conflict, and with Iran also backing the Assad regime, foreign ministers from all three countries meet today here in Moscow to plot a way forward. It would have been a tense meeting anyway, but after the murder of Andrey Karlov in the Turkish capital just hours before it, it will now take on renewed importance.
Well, let's join David now, who's in Moscow for us. So, David, do you think it is just a coincidence that this attack happened less than 24 hours before this meeting of Turkey, Russia and Iran?
Impossible to know, but I think one thing that is clear is it could not have come at a more delicate time. I referred in my report there to the shooting down of a Russian fighter jet by the Turks close to the Syrian border at the back end of last year. And when that happened, the embassy here in Moscow, the Turkish embassy, was attacked by a mob. And this morning, the Interior Minister here in Russia has upped the security at every Turkish embassy and consulate across this massive country. So there's no repeat. So we have the politicians at the very top here trying to keep this circle of agreement together, to try and keep talking. But of course, the attack, the murder of Andrey Karlov came just a couple of days after big protests in Turkey about Russia's involvement in Syria. There is a groundswell of opinion there that Russia is overstepping the mark, shouldn't be doing what it's doing in Syria. And of course, at this meeting today, you have three countries who are on opposite sides. Both Iran and the Russians are trying to shore up the Assad regime, and the Turks are supporting some of the rebels to try and topple him. So they come from opposing sides to start off with. What they're going to make of what's happened now, goodness only knows. But as I said in my report, it was always going to be a very delicate meeting. Now, I think the tensions will be even greater. They've got to try and come to some kind of agreement, because the one thing they do have in common is they want an end to the war in Syria, but they all want different things out of it.
Thank you, David.